There's a saying in Psalm 116, "What do I give back to the Lord for all the gifts that He's given me?" I was the founder of Rapid Oil Change, which was one of the 3 largest quick lube chains in the country that we sold to Valvoline. I was one of a few investors who became the first franchisee of Applebee's. We built 170 Applebee's. I was one of a few partners that started a company called Miller Milling. We became the largest company in the United States and Mexico that made semolina. And then the last business that we built was Sign Zone, and we just recently sold our controlling interest in that. The motivation to do this really came out of selling our first business. And I grew up in a real middle-income family. It was a blue-collar town. There wasn't money in our town. I didn't understand wealth. And all of a sudden, I woke up with a lot of money. And it was very unsettling to try to figure out, what does this mean? There's got to be something deeper, greater than this. And so I started reading about the really terrific philanthropists of the early 1900s. So there'd be the Carnegies and the Fords and the Rockefellers, who all were highly motivated to give back to their communities. And Andrew Carnegie had a quote which essentially said, "The most shameful thing a person can die with is wealth." He had a feeling that he should give that back to the community that he made it in, and that ultimately true philanthropists die broke, that you give away your wealth and you give it for the greater good. And so as I read about some of these guys' philosophies, it was like, this makes a lot of sense. And so you need a mission. The key to getting ahead is education and character. Our original focus was taking high potential, high academic skilled students from 8th grade who have economic need and giving them scholarships to college prep high schools. Our belief has been that you've got to lay that foundation. If the student doesn't have a good foundation in junior high school, they don't have a chance in college. So we felt getting them in college prep high schools where there's a community and a support system and people that really care about them and set expectations and hold them accountable are all critical things to make them be successful in college. The true measurement of success for us will be how many scholars graduate from college. That's the measurement. And so we're becoming very intentional about how we help these scholars with summer enrichment, with ACT, SAT, college prep courses, with the whole college selection process, the college visitation process, and then the scholarship process. My life as a young man had a lot of challenges, like a lot of our scholars do. My mom suffered from mental illness. I was the oldest of 3 boys. There were times in junior high and high school that I didn't go to school because I had to do the family laundry or I had to cook dinner. And I never thought that that was a sacrifice. It's just kind of like, this is what you got to do. And it was very difficult. I had to grow up in a hurry, like a lot of our scholars do. But I never felt, woe is me. It was like, or this isn't fair. It's just like, you got to do what you got to do. And those environments shape who you are. And I think our students need to understand that just because they come from a difficult situation doesn't define them. What defines them is how they react to that. I was the oldest of 3 boys. My dad owned a small business, a body shop. He made a modest living. Money was tight in our family, it always was. And my mom and dad made tremendous sacrifices to send all of us boys to Catholic schools. I wouldn't call myself a student in grade school. I was interested in sports. I was a real active kid and I loved sports. And I got by until 7th grade when I hit Sister Mary Ellen's class, and she taught 7th and 8th grade together. It was 60 kids in the class. And about the second week of school, she hands me an envelope and says, "Give this to your mother." I took it home and I hand it to my mom and she says, "Now what did you do?" So she opens it up and it says, "Please bring Eddie and your husband to school tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We need to meet." So I went up there. You sit in the big waiting area waiting for the nun to come down, and you're not sure what's going to go on. And she says to my folks, he's not working up to his potential. He can be an A student. I'm not going to tolerate it. You guys need to support this, but I expect him to do A work from now on. And she was all over me those 2 years, and I'm very grateful for what she did, but there were times I hated that woman because she wouldn't let me get by with anything. And I think the end of my 8th grade year, we were thinking we were pretty hot stuff. And so about a week before we were to leave 8th grade, some of us went after school across the street and bought some cigars, and then came back to the school and went behind the gym and started smoking them. And who should come around the corner but Sister Mary Ellen's sister, Sister Angela Ann, who ran the orphanage, and she was a tough lady. And she said, "What are you doing, boys?" And I was like, we're nervous. Oh my God, we got caught. And she sits down and she says, "You got an extra one of those?" And she lights up the cigar. She says, "Let me see you smoke one, boys." And so we're going like this. "Oh no, boys, here's how you do it." And she takes a deep inhale and she makes us smoke those cigars, and she smoked one with us. I missed the next 2 days of school. I was so sick. I've never touched a cigarette, never liked a cigarette ever since. But I learned a lot from those nuns. They were tough, but they cared about you. That was a life changer for me. I was blessed to be a good athlete, and when I started freshman football, the varsity didn't have someone that could snap a punt. And so I became the snapper as a freshman, and as the season went on, I practiced with the varsity. I didn't play much with the freshman or JV team. And I played in many games, obviously. And when the season rolled along, I thought I would be the first freshman ever to get a football letter at the high school, and I didn't get one. And the coach, who was a tough guy, but a fair guy, said, "I don't think freshmen deserve letters. You deserve one for your playing time, but I don't want this to go to your head." And so what I learned from that was that life isn't fair sometimes, but you have to accept what is dealt you, and then how do you handle it? He was very hard on all of us kids, but what I realized later that I got from Coach Mearns was he saw things in me I didn't see in myself. It had been 40 years since we had, as seniors, won the state championship in football. And I thought, geez, wouldn't it be neat to get all of us together? We had a wonderful time. We showed old movies from our game days and stuff. At the end of the dinner, I said, before we break up, why doesn't everybody take 5 minutes and talk about how your life has turned out? And the stories were incredible. So many of them spoke to the character of the people, which really spoke to the character of the coaches, and how all of these people had turned out to be really terrific human beings. And when I came back, I started sharing these stories with friends, and they all said, "This is unbelievable. You should write a book." One of the messages, I think, from the book that for me is a significant lesson, and I think a lesson for our scholars, is we expect a lot from our scholars, just like our coaches expected a lot from us. And they expected so much from us, we didn't know we could give that much. But we found out we could. And when people expect more from you than you can give yourself, you probably can give it if you put the effort in. Perseverance is a gift. Once the child decides what school they want to go to, we're very clear that if they decide to leave that school, the scholarship ends and it is not transferable. And what we're trying to teach the student at that point in time is that perseverance is an important value to learn as a young person. And when you stick with a decision, you work through the hard things and you gain self-confidence, you gain self-respect and self-worth. We don't want scholars who the first time things get difficult want to duck and run and hide. I love a quote by Alan Simpson, who was a former senator from Wyoming, who said, "If you have integrity, it's all that matters. And if you don't have integrity, it's all that matters. George Washington Carver thought his purpose in life, and I think our scholars and all of us in life should remember that what we give back to our communities really define who we are. We're doing God's work when we give back the talents that we've been given in our community. And we talk to our students about paying it forward. When we pay it forward, we really want them to understand they don't have to thank us. Thank you is all they can give. We don't expect them to do anything more than that. But we do expect them to find another scholar when they're able to, or someone who's a neighbor that needs something, that they can remember that their life is better because the affiliation they had with our foundation, and that they become leaders in their community, really become the value holders, if you will, of their community. And that's how society gets better, as we pay it forward. I don't believe in legacies, but I love Calvin Coolidge's quote, which is, "No man was ever honored for what he received. He's honored for what he gives."